It's the journey of Jim.
Hi folks, welcome back to Journey of Jim. It's been a minute since I've done any recording. It's probably been at least a couple of months. A few life changes, few things to deal with, so my apologies if one or two of my subscribers were waiting on content from me, but just had to get through some stuff. So what I have been doing in the meantime is playing a lot of Valheim. Over 200 hours of Valheim, in fact. I became a little bit obsessed with it, so that has been keeping me busy, keeping my mind straight a little bit. And I just wanted to do a quick walk around video just to kind of show you guys what it is that I've been up to in those 200 hours of Valheim. If you don't know anything about Valheim, it is a survival game set in a kind of a purgatory land where you're essentially a dead Viking warrior and you have to prove to Odin your worth so that you can get to Valhalla. And in the meantime, you hang around in Valheim. You have to take out some bosses, some evil spirits, I guess, that Odin has some issues with. But you can also build and just generally fart around collecting wood and resources and things like that. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't played it yet, I would highly recommend it. So diving in, I just wanted to do a little bit of a tour of like how my game progressed. I'm in the meadows right now. This is pretty close to the starting point where the game kind of kicks you out, the game kicks off. It does kind of kick you out. You're dropped by a lady who looks like a bird from the sky, not wearing any pants, and you're expected to just figure it out from there. So I started in this area, kind of through those trees there, and as I kind of did some exploration, I'm on a server. Some friends of mine invited me to play on their server, so they were already in the world when I got here, and I found this. While entering this area, I was like, oh, somebody has been here before me. This is now abandoned, but I can kind of see where they've been farming, and there's not really much left in here. But it just gave me an idea of, wow, okay, you can build some pretty intense structures. I think my structure so far had just been a 4x4 shack that I'd been kind of hovering in and sleeping in. So when I found this, I was like, okay, this gives me a little bit of an idea of where the game kind of can go. And, you know, they'd had some of their... it was abandoned by the time I got here, so it didn't really benefit me in any way. So I thought, I'm going to move in next door. And this little cluster of trees, I'll give you a hint, that cluster of trees wasn't there before I moved in. I thought I'll just, down the way a little bit, I'll make myself a little place to call home. So I did. And I was really inspired by the idea of having almost like a cabin in the woods, like somewhere that was really secluded, that I could be left alone. And actually, oddly enough, ties into a D&D, Dungeons & Dragons campaign that I'm playing at the moment with a group of friends. And I'm playing a character who's a wizard who, when the party meet him, he's a hermit in the woods. He's been alone for many, many years. So that was really an inspiration when I built this. And it's even in the map. If you look at it, it's called Raymond's. Raymond is the name of the character. So I'll give you a little tour. Here is the front gate. Trolls were a problem in this area, especially when you get trolls attacking, and the capacity to wreck your base is pretty substantial. So I got a bit carried away with the troll heads. I've murdered a lot of trolls. But they're very much not welcome in my home because they're terrible, terrible house guests. Without much further ado, welcome to my little cabin in the woods. It's pretty humble. It only really needed to house me. Here are some of my bronze-aged weapons that I was using at the time. This was where I pretty much stayed for the first, second, and bleeding into the third boss, of which there are currently 5. So this was very much the first half of my experience with the game. Some plants there. I'll do a kind of a walk around the exterior. I won't show you where that goes at the moment because that goes to the base of my friends who are also on the server. And I don't necessarily want to show you what they've been up to, but anytime they come, they get a nice little welcome sign. Welcome, friends. Again, just So many trolls trophies. So if you look in the trees as we go, you may see troll heads. There's one. I got a little carried away with that. And I really enjoy these little decorative touches. You know, you can have the wood blocks and whatnot. This is where I made all of my foods. Would have kept all my ingredients in here. Little circling trophy at the top there. I really got into just detailing and making these places feel really lived in. This is my fermenter, so anytime I need to brew potions, that's where I did that. I would pay attention to this little yellow mushroom. It became kind of a calling card for some of my design. This is where I did my smelting. This is my workshops. This is the Eichthea trophy from the first boss. This is what I mean by troll heads. I got a little carried away with them, and generally trying to scare away any uninvited guests that come wandering through the woods and trying to get into my house at night. But I started to play with just some of these little structures. You know, instead of just having a gate, let's make a gateway. You know, let's jazz it up a little bit. This is where I would have done all my early building of metal things in my forge, and then my workbench at the back here. And I got a lot of stuff done in these areas. This was my humble little farm where I grew my carrots and turnips in the early game. At the beginning, I just had the house. I didn't have the wall around it, but trust me, after getting a couple of skeleton surprises and a couple of troll attacks, I put me some walls around just to keep myself safe. That's probably my favorite troll head, I think, there, just because you can't really see it at this angle, but then it just peekaboo if you're farming and you have a little bit of a scare. I do have some boar which I tamed, so I got a little bit into farming, and I gave them a little bridge so they can go outside and get some fresh air. There they are. They're pottering around down there, and it was just a little area I felt to be playing the game. I had a lot of the early resources just kind of here, just through those woods. There is Black Forest, which I would go to get my copper and various other things. I had a couple of trolls just wander through from that area, which is always a little unnerving. But I did want the boar to be able to retreat to a safe little cubby if they wanted to, because there are at night, you know, there's ads that are wandering around here that that give these poor little piggies a scare. So I gave them a little bridge, and I made kind of like a moat around the edge, just to give myself some extra defenses. I found myself getting attacked here quite a lot in those early stages of the game, so this became a really heavily defended, kind of stronghold for me. And here we go inside. And I really wanted something that was cozy, you know, it was somewhere that was, after wandering around in the dangerous world, a nice little cozy place to come back home to, which is what this became. So, yeah, it's not very big, it's very humble, but it was what I called home for a very long time. And again, like set dressing, like the idea that I would come home and just carve some freshly cooked meats and have a nice, warm, refreshing bowl of stew. And yeah, some of the potions that I started to make before I officially moved out here. This is pretty much empty of things at this point, because I have fully moved now to my new home, which I outgrew this as I was taking on the third boss, which is Bone Mass. I just found that I needed more space to play around with, and I really wanted to explore what I could build. So, I mean, here is where I kept my bees. Bees! I've moved a few of them now. I used to have more beehives. But this is where I go to my new home. It is raining, which is never the best way to show off, but this is my portal circle, which I built just playing around, really, just messing around with kind of structural shapes. There's some Draugr heads, and yeah, just like kind of dressing it. And then I actually planted the fir tree in the middle, which is how I didn't build it around a fir tree. I built the thing and then put the fir tree in the middle. And actually, if I do this, I've got what stops me from getting into the portal. So you can see I've got Bone Mass, the swamp, mountain, where we just came from, down to the dock, which I'll show you in a minute, and that goes on then to the plains. So this just is a very functional kind of gateway for me to get to most places in the game that I've set up little camps. So I came out here because I wanted to build a bigger house. So I think this constitutes something a little bit bigger. I still wanted to keep it in that kind of almost Viking style where the roof comes down at an angle all the way to the floor, but also just wanted to make something a bit more fun, a bit more interesting, something that gave me some more space. And yeah, it was really fun just playing around with the different pieces that you've got available and different structures. As you can see, I've got some trophies. I really like this kind of cobblestone floor technique that you can use your, I think it's your hoe, and you need a stonecutter's table to be able to do that. But yeah, this was home number 2. I did realize that you can build a bonfire inside, and that it doesn't burn your house down. So there are no like fire physics. So once I did that, I was like, to hell with it. So I built a log cabin around a giant fire. So you do have to take it with a pinch of salt, because, you know, in any real life situation, this would just all burn down. And the fire hazard theme plays through the rest of the house, as you'll see, but just created a nice little sitting area. Bone Mass was a difficult boss to fight. I had a couple of goes at him, and it was a very dramatic journey, me taking him down. So now he resides hanging over the fire, burning for eternity, which I think is a pretty fitting end for him. On the right here, I really like the idea of having like a potion bar. So you can just kind of, before you need to go, I'll probably pick some spares in there. But as you can see, just potions as you need them. And the actual, the model for the potions, they look really cool. I love the fact that they light up a little bit. I'm glad that they put that in the game, that you can actually, you know, put them on a stand and display them. And then I created a little kind of eating area. So here's almost like a little makeshift barbecue. Some lox meat and a lox pie. Very difficult to make if you've played the game. And this is just a nice little kind of dining area where if I have any companions staying with me, that we could feast before heading out for our adventures. And then they just made these maypoles buildable in the game, so I thought I'd put one in my house. And then you can't really see it down there, but I will show you. That's my dock down at the bottom there. It's raining pretty heavily, so we'll wait for the sun to come out. And then there is kind of the front of the house. I really wanted something that had like an overhang. It was very difficult to figure out with the supports how to build it and have it not just fall down. But I figured this out, and this does the trick for me, and I will show you my bedroom. Here it is. I've got my my iron sledge. I don't have frost near yet. I don't really use the hammers that much, so. But you can build and mount all these different weapons. Here are my silver shield and iron mace and huntsman bow, which were, I guess, the third quarter of the game when I was fighting the 4th boss in the mountain biome. These are the items that I was using. So now that I've retired them because I have all the black metal stuff now, yeah, I just like to kind of keep them up and be reminded. This is my bedroom. So in here I've got all my trophies, various old armor and trinkets that I've picked up along the way. I do have comfort level 17 in here, which is the highest that it can go as of this recording. So I get the full rested bonus whenever I rest in here. Various little implements. And again, that's what I was telling you about the fire hazards. I think you just have to take that with a pinch of salt. Fire next to a floating kind of curtain thing. Yeah, any real world situation, this house would have burned down within minutes of me building it, so, oh well. That's the power of make-believe. Now what you can't really see out here, which is disappointing, is as the sun comes up in the morning, it comes up right on that line. So the sun floods into the room in the morning, and I really dug that. That's why I built this, the whole building, to reflect that kind of line of the sun coming up, so you get the morning sunrise kind of drenching this whole room in morning light. It's pretty glorious, but as of right now, all we can see is clouds and rain, so there we go. And I will move on. I haven't quite fully decided. I haven't finished this yet. I haven't decided what I'm going to put in here. I did just have a bunch of storage that I ended up not using, so I'll probably figure something kind of fun to put in that space right now. But what I wanted to do is separate out my kind of workshop. So rather than having everything under one roof, I wanted to build a workshop, and that's what I did, which is this building right here. I also built on the edge of this kind of cliff. There was a one of these shipwrecks, the standing stones, was already here. So I kind of incorporated that into my yard and turned it into a bit of a farm. So that was quite fun. I'm really, really happy with how this workshop turned out. I've put a lot of hours into making this look just kind of cool and very homely and very lived in, and giving it kind of texture. So as you can see, I've just gone too deep with this wall here. It just gives it a little depth, a little bit of shadow, some little tanning rack outside. So here is where I keep my workbench and my forge. Try to incorporate the various elements, that increase the level of your forge and your workbench just to make it actually feel kind of functional. I really kind of dig what I did with the fire here and just kind of giving it that really low light vibe. In here I've got all my metals, so I've got plenty of silver, black metal, and iron. It's taken a really long time to to farm those metals. Anybody who's played the game knows you can't use a portal to transport metal. So lots of going to different faraway places and bringing all the metals back here so I can smelt them. This is just my kind of dumping ground, mostly for where I make my arrows. Really just try to create like a working, functional workshop. This is where I keep my components, so various things that I use to make stuff, various hides. This is where I keep my wood. I've got lots of fine wood and cool wood as well as just regular. So this here is like a secondary location that I built originally because it was close to a lot of copper and tin, and it's where I built my original forge. So this isn't a very fancy building. This is just purely functional. But this is where originally I kind of dug out. Oh, there's a tree in here. And I get a lot of troll attacks, so I built it underneath rocks. So this is where my original forge was. This is where I did a lot of my smelting. Mostly because if I go up here, it's getting kind of dark. Is it nighttime? Yeah, so over here is where a lot of my copper is. You know what, I'm going to go and sleep real quick. So, is it cloudy? The sun will come up. There it is. And you can maybe just see a little better down there, my long ship. Yeah, you can see as the sun's starting to reflect on the ocean there, you do get this kind of wonderful bathing morning light, which I really dug. I really like the idea of using the environment to emphasize the buildings that you make. Instead of just finding a clearing and building something cool, like how can you use the natural world around you to really emphasize what you're building and really just make everything look cooler. So, I found this big drop off. It's almost like a cliff that goes down to the ocean. So I really like the high kind of perch and gives you a good view. So this is my my observation deck, and as you can see the sun right there. It's just a nice kind of bay that I've chosen. Needing to get to my ships though, I didn't want to have to run up this cliff every time, so I did build that bridge, which I'll show you in more detail in a second, but let me tell you, that bridge took a long time to build. Quite a lot of wood. So on the front there you can see the Moda trophy. Over there is the Elder. I've taken all the bosses but the last one. There's Yagluth is going to go on here. That's where his head's going to get mounted. But I haven't fought him yet. This part of me doesn't want to, because as soon as I do, I've kind of beaten the game then. And while he's still alive, it's always that kind of... I always know there's something out there waiting for me to still defeat. For some reason, I don't know why, psychologically, it just makes me feel like it keeps the game alive if there's still something to do. So I've been putting that off a little bit. So yeah, this was where I found a lot of copper, so I had my kind of copper mine set up, which I would then melt down in my forge. This has now become my wood farming location. So I've planted all of these trees multiple times, and when I need great deals of wood, which trust me, you do when you're building large projects, I'll come, and I've got pine, fir and beech trees all planted here. So it's easy for me to come and harvest and just chop all of these down whenever I need large amounts of wood. I just did one recently, so I'm pretty good for now, but whenever I need it, this is my tree farm. And again, just this was one of the barrows, the burial chambers. I kind of just incorporated that into my build. That's where I did launch my ships from. I'll show you my map. So where we are here, that's where I got a lot of my early iron. As you can see, if I go out, I've been around a little bit. I had to go all the way down here to get to bone mass. That was quite fun. That was my first taste of the plains, and generally kind of died. I've actually got a bit more of an established area there. This is where I hit the mountain, and this is my newest swamp that I've been farming iron at. So you do have to travel in this game. You do really have to get on that ship and just strike out towards the horizon and see what you can find. So anyway, so that's where I used to do a lot of my boat launches in the early part of the game. And this now is just like a practical place for me to come and just farm wood mostly now. As you can see, it's still pretty bare bones basic, but it does the job. And having that portal right here inside my workshop just makes it easy for me to do runs, pick up wood, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's my forge and my workshop. Over here, I built this as an extension. This is where I do a lot of my food prep, so got all my foods ready and demonstrated. Got my raw meats, my various ingredients, got some potions, some meals. This is where I do, and it's very convenient because I've got the farm right here to get my carrots and turnips. I did have a boar, but I got attacked by, I think it was skeletons, and they broke down some of these walls, and I just haven't got around to getting another one. Got my honey here, my windmill. I didn't really want like a whole bank of windmills, just one was fine. But yeah, just a little bit of a better view of the bridge, which will again go down in a moment. This is my fermenter, my artisan table. Through here is where all the smelting goes. You can see just a nice little curtain just to separate the food prep area from where I melt down my metals. So I've got some kind of raw materials still here, but I'm in the process of melting down some silver at the moment. I'm just going to drop that there. I always try and just, instead of just plonking one down, I like to try and frame it and make it feel like it's a practical part of my home and not just some purely functional thing. And this is where I have like a little wood chopping and stone carving section. I quite like the idea of the Lox trophy on the side of the charcoal kiln here. And it's just ready to go, just whenever I need more charcoal, I just pop it in there. This portal here goes to an area in the plains, which is essentially a forest of pure fine wood. In the early days, you have to go through regular forests to try and find individual birch trees, whereas here, as you can see, it's just all birch trees. all around. So this is just I'm going to get out of here because I haven't eaten a lot of foods and death skeetos will kill me. So this is just another little shortcut. Anytime I need a bunch of fine wood, jump through that portal, and I'm in an area where I can harvest that very quickly and very efficiently. And yeah, this is the latest edition. It's still probably a kind of a work in progress. But in order to smelt black metal, you need a blast furnace. So I have one out here. Yep, there's my black metal. And my spinning wheel for my flax. So I do have some, just in case I have friends that we're playing together and they need somewhere to sleep. I have built these little kind of log cabins out in the grounds. So whenever anybody needs to come by, it's just a nice little place. I think it's like Comfort 7, so yeah. And I'll probably build a couple more of these just around the edges. So finally I will run you down this bridge. Can you imagine how much I questioned my decision making about halfway down to make it this wide and instead of just this little narrow thing? I think it looks better, and I'm glad I did it too wide, but I was kicking myself for a while there. Yeah, it was a pain. But I wanted somewhere that was kind of cool to land my boat and have like a little space to be able to do that. My original plan was to have this as a dock, but what I didn't realize is that the water here rises and falls so much, especially when you get a storm. It's crazy. It's just unbelievable. So I kind of had to build off to the sides in slightly more secure areas, but this is just my little dock house. I haven't killed a serpent on land yet. I've killed serpents, but they go underwater very quickly, so it's very difficult to get a serpent trophy. And as soon as I get one, it's going up on the top part of the roof there, so watch this space. If you see one later, you'll know that I managed to take one down. And this is just, this is where I launched my little ship from. It's a nice little cubby, keeps it safe. There is a portal that goes up to the main house, but you can't use that if you're carrying metal. So if I'm just pottering around down here, I'll launch. But if I have to carry metal from my ship, because I've just come back with a shipment from a far-off continent, then at least I have the bridge to run up instead of having to run up the mountainside. And I quite like this little kind of design that goes up into the rafters where there's just straight storage if you need it. It's a little bit out of the way. This is the newest building that I've made, second to where I just had the blast furnace. So this is still, again, not really fully furnished, decked out, but functional. And then this is where I land my longship. I just needed somewhere that I can park that and take off whenever I need to. So yeah, I was going to build like a roof to this decking, but because of the angles, it just proved to be far too difficult. And that's really it. That's my home away from home. So I'll just run through this. What have I got on me? Oh, I've got 4 black metal. Oh, well. So I'm going to run up the. I can just do that. And here it is, my home away from home, and it's served me very well. It's been a fun little home to spend time in, and I want to do a whole series where I start the game again and I'll record a playthrough. I want to do some videos on some building ideas and tips and tricks and things I've learned along the way. There's a lot of little details about this game that are very difficult to figure out on your own. So I will do some short videos on just how to deal with certain bosses, how to get certain minerals, how to get certain resources, just fun things. I've really enjoyed this game. If you haven't played it yourself, I would highly recommend it. I'm going to do a lot of content around this, so watch this space. Thank you so much for joining in. Again, sorry I've been away, but I'm going to get back into some more regular recording in the near future. So this has been Journey of Jim. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.
It's the journey of Jim.